Wine dripped down Alina's face. Red wine, expensive wine, the kind that cost more per bottle than she'd made in a week when she started this company 18 years ago. 300 guests had stopped breathing. Forks frozen mid-air, conversations dead, every eye in the ballroom fixed on the woman in the stained uniform, standing perfectly still while Chef Dominic Crane sneered down at her. "Get this incompetent trash out of my sight." Alina didn't move, didn't speak. Just stood there, wine pooling in the hollow of her collarbone, dripping onto the marble floor. From somewhere near the service entrance, she heard a small gasp. Her daughter's voice. 11 years old and watching her mother be humiliated in front of everyone. What nobody in that room knew, not the chef, not the billionaire bride, not the 300 guests frozen in their seats, was that in exactly 12 minutes, Alina would walk to that microphone. She would shut down a $4 million wedding. And she would fire every person responsible for what just happened. Because the woman with wine running down her face, she owned the company, she owned the chef's paycheck, she owned every fork, plate, and champagne flute in the building. She had signed the contract for this wedding herself, 48 hours ago in a lawyer's office, in complete silence. And she'd been watching, all night, waiting to see who her people had become. But to understand what happened in those 12 minutes and why it changed everything, we need to go back 6 hours earlier to when Alina Vance walked through the service entrance of the Ashford estate with her daughter beside her and a secret that would destroy careers. 6 hours earlier, 6:00 p.m., the uniform didn't fit. Alina tugged at the shoulders as she walked through the service entrance. The fabric bunched where it shouldn't. The name tag sat crooked on her chest. Maria Santos. A borrowed name for borrowed clothes. Sophia walked beside her, backpack over one shoulder, homework folder clutched against her chest. Her eyes were wide as dinner plates. The Ashford estate stretched before them, crystal chandeliers visible through service windows, fresh flowers in arrangements that cost more than cars, staff moving in precise choreographed patterns. "Mom," Sophia's voice was barely a whisper. "You built all of this?" Alina squeezed her daughter's hand. "A long time ago, sweetheart." "Tonight I'm just Maria. Can you keep my secret?" Sophia nodded. Solemn, she understood more than Alina realized. They found a quiet spot in the service hallway, a small bench near the back stairs. Alina set Sophia up with her homework, a granola bar, and a clear sightline to the kitchen door. "Stay here, I need to see something for myself." Sophia looked up. Her face held a question she didn't quite ask. "What if something happens to you?" Alina paused. The question landed harder than it should have. She knelt down, eye level with her daughter. "Then you'll see exactly who your mother really is." Alina had built Aurum Catering from nothing, a food truck in the Mission District, 18 years of 16-hour days, clients who became friends who became family, a reputation built on one simple promise: we treat every person, staff or guest, like they matter. Then her mother got sick. The same year her husband decided he didn't want to be a husband anymore. The same year Sophia started asking why mommy was never home. Some things matter more than business. So Alina sold, walked away with enough money to pay medical bills and start over, watched from a distance as her company changed hands, changed managers, changed everything. The complaints started filtering through old contacts 2 years ago. Staff turnover that didn't make sense. Whispered stories about the new head chef. A culture that sounded nothing like what Alina had built. She told herself it wasn't her problem anymore. She told herself that for 2 years. 48 hours ago, she stopped telling herself that. 7:30 p.m., cocktail hour, the kitchen ran like a machine. Alina moved through the reception with a tray of champagne, watching everything. The efficiency was impressive. Dominic had built tight systems, precise timing, flawless presentation, but the energy was wrong. Servers didn't chat between tasks. No one laughed. No one made eye contact longer than necessary. They moved like people expecting to be hit, shoulders tight, heads down, voices flat. Alina had built this company on the belief that happy staff made happy guests. What she saw now was fear dressed up as professionalism. She was refilling her tray when she heard the voice. "You." The word cracked across the kitchen like a whip. Alina turned. Chef Dominic Crane stood in the doorway, tall. Commanding, the kind of presence that filled a room by force. His whites were immaculate. His expression was not. He wasn't looking at Elena, he was looking at Marcus. Marcus was maybe 22, nervous energy, the kind of server who tried too hard because he cared too much. Elena had watched him nearly drop a tray earlier, then recover with surprising grace. Talent buried under anxiety. Right now, that talent meant nothing. Dominic crossed the kitchen in 4 strides. His finger jabbed toward a napkin fold on Marcus's prep station. Slightly crooked, barely noticeable. Is this what passes for competence now? His voice carried, designed to carry. Every person in the kitchen heard, every person stopped. A child could do better than this. A child with no training and no hands could fold a napkin better than you. Marcus stood frozen. His face had gone white. Do you have any idea what tonight means? Do you have any concept of what's at stake? Or are you simply too stupid to understand basic instructions? No one moved, no one spoke. The only sound was the distant hum of guests enjoying themselves 20 feet away, oblivious to the destruction happening in plain sight. From the corner of her eye, Elena saw movement. The service hallway. Sophia, standing in the doorway, homework forgotten, watching. Her daughter's face shifted as Dominic continued his assault. Confusion first, then something harder. Something that looked like disappointment in every adult in this room. Elena filed that look away. It burned. But she didn't intervene, not yet. The humiliation lasted 90 seconds. It felt like an hour. When Dominic finally turned away, dismissing Marcus with a wave like brushing off a fly, the young server's hands were shaking. No one said a word, not a single person. Rachel Torres, a woman Elena recognized from the old days, one of her first hires, stared at the floor. Her jaw was tight, her shoulders rigid. She knew this was wrong, but Rachel said nothing. Why? Elena approached Dominic 20 minutes later. She kept her voice neutral, professional, the way she'd trained her staff years ago. Chef, a guest at table 12, mentioned a shellfish allergy. I wanted to confirm the appetizer rotation is. Dominic barely glanced at her. You're not paid to think. His voice dripped contempt. You're paid to carry plates. If the guest has a problem, they can speak to someone who matters. He waved his hand, dismissal, like she was furniture that had briefly made a sound. Elena could have ended it right there. She could have said her name, shown him the acquisition papers, watched his face collapse. Instead, she adjusted her too big uniform, straightened her crooked name tag. Yes, chef. She walked back to the reception floor, her jaw tight, her pulse steady. Not yet. She was restocking napkins when Rachel passed behind her. Their eyes met for half a second. Rachel's face flickered, surprise, then recognition, then something that looked almost like fear. Then Rachel looked away, fast, deliberate. Elena kept walking, but her mind was racing. Rachel knew, she'd known from the moment Elena walked through the service entrance. 3 years they'd worked together. Rachel had been at Elena's mother's funeral. There was no way she didn't recognize her. So why hadn't she said a word? Why had she stayed silent, not just tonight, but for 3 years? Watching this company rot from the inside, watching Dominic destroy what Elena had built. If Rachel knew the truth, why hadn't she done anything? And more importantly, what else did Rachel know? The service corridor was quiet. Elena leaned against the wall, catching her breath. Her hands still trembled from Dominic's dismissal. Footsteps. Soft, deliberate. Rachel appeared around the corner. She stopped 3 feet away. Her face held something Elena couldn't read. I know who you are, the words hung in the air. I've known since you walked in. Elena didn't move, didn't speak, she waited. Rachel's voice dropped to a whisper. 3 years, I've been watching this company become something I hate, something you'd hate. She pulled a folder from beneath her apron. Manila, thick, dog-eared from handling. I documented everything, every harassment complaint, every wrongful termination. Every time someone cried in the walk-in freezer because of him. Elena took the folder. It was heavier than it looked. Why didn't you leave? Rachel's eyes were wet. Because I kept hoping you'd come back. I thought if I kept records, if I waited. She didn't finish. She didn't need to. From down the hallway, a small figure watched. Sophia, homework abandoned, saw her mother receive something important, something that changed the way Elena's shoulders squared. Elena opened the folder. The first page was a spreadsheet. Vendor invoices, payment records, numbers that didn't match. Her face hardened. This isn't just harassment, Rachel nodded. He's been skimming, vendor contracts, kickbacks from suppliers. I found the discrepancies 18 months ago. How much? 15,000, maybe more. Elena closed the folder. Her jaw was tight enough to crack teeth. This wasn't just about cruelty anymore. This was theft. Criminal. Thank you, Rachel, for waiting. Rachel wiped her eyes. What are you going to do? Elena tucked the folder into her uniform. What I should have done 3 years ago. 8:00 p.m. dinner service. The main reception glittered like something from a dream. 300 guests filled the ballroom. Crystal clinked against crystal. Laughter rose and fell in waves. The Ashford Chen wedding was everything money could buy. Elena moved through the tables with practiced invisibility. Champagne refills, bread baskets, napkin adjustments. The work was muscle memory, but her eyes were everywhere. At the head table, Gerald Ashford watched the room, the patriarch, Victoria's future father-in-law. His expression gave nothing away, but Elena noticed where his gaze lingered, on the servers, on their movements, on the way they flinched when Dominic passed. Gerald saw more than he let on. In the kitchen, Dominic performed. For the guests, he was charm itself, warm handshakes with important people. Humble references to his James Beard nomination. The artist at work. The moment guests turned away, the mask dropped. Sharp commands, cold corrections. Staff who moved like prey avoiding a predator. 2 faces seamlessly maintained. Elena filed it away, evidence she didn't need documentation to prove. Then Marcus fumbled. It happened fast. A napkin slipped from his tray, white linen against marble floor. The sound was barely audible, but Dominic heard. His head turned, slowly. A predator locating wounded prey. The walk began, 20 feet across the reception floor, every step deliberate. Every server in his path froze. Marcus stood paralyzed. His face had gone white. Elena moved. Before Dominic reached Marcus, she stepped forward. Her voice was calm, professional. That was my fault, chef. I bumped his arm while passing. A lie, a shield. Dominic's eyes narrowed. He didn't believe her. She could see the calculation. Challenging the lie would mean admitting he'd been about to destroy a server over a napkin. He chose the new target instead. Then perhaps you should be more careful. His voice was soft, dangerous. Unless you'd like to explain to the bride why her reception is staffed by amateurs. He leaned close. Elena could smell his cologne, something expensive, something meant to intimidate. One more mistake, one, and you're gone. He turned and walked away. The room exhaled. From the doorway, Sophia watched. Her mother had just taken punishment meant for someone else. Elena could see the confusion on her daughter's face. The questions forming. Why did you do that? Why didn't you fight back? Sophia didn't understand, not yet. 8:15 p.m., the incident 15 minutes later, Elena approached Dominic again, not defiance, necessity. A guest at table 12 had a severe shellfish allergy. The sauce being served contained shrimp stock. Elena had caught the error. Someone needed to know. She kept her voice low, respectful, everything she'd trained her staff to be. Chef, I need to flag a concern. Table 12 has a shellfish allergy listed, and the Dominic's face twisted. Are you questioning my kitchen? Chef, I'm only trying to. You're only a temp who's been here 5 hours. His voice rose. Guests at nearby tables turned. And you think you know better than a James Beard nominee? The room was watching now. Elena could feel 300 pairs of eyes. This is what I deal with. Dominic addressed the crowd now, performing his outrage. This is why excellence is impossible. He grabbed a glass from a passing tray. Red wine, full. Elena saw it coming. She didn't move. The wine hit her face, not a splash. A throw, deliberate, violent. Red liquid ran down her cheeks, into the collar of her uniform, pooling in the hollow of her throat. 300 people stopped breathing. Get this incompetent trash out of my sight. Dominic's voice carried across the silent room. You're fired, security. He turned back to his kitchen, already dismissing her, already forgotten. Elena stood perfectly still. Wine dripped onto the marble. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. When she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. Are you finished? Dominic didn't hear. He was already gone, but Sophia heard. From the doorway, Elena's daughter had started to run forward. Rachel caught her, held her back. Whispered something in her ear. Wait, trust your mom. Sophia stopped, but her whole body was shaking. The decision window T+0. Alina walked to the service hallway, wine still dripping, hands steady despite everything. The 12-minute countdown had begun. She pulled out her phone. Her lawyer answered on the second ring. David, confirm my ownership is legally active. Since 4 p.m. Thursday. Alina, what's happening? Just confirm it's binding. It's binding. You own everything. She hung up. 3 minutes passed. Then footsteps, small footsteps. Familiar. Sophia appeared at the end of the hallway. Her face was streaked with tears she was trying to hide. She didn't speak at first. She just looked at her mother, wine-stained, trembling, something transformed in her eyes. 9 minutes passed. Then Sophia spoke. Mom, if you don't do something, doesn't that mean it's okay? Alina froze. Doesn't that mean what he did is allowed, that nobody will ever stop him? Sophia's voice cracked. What am I supposed to learn from that? The question hit Alina like a physical blow. She looked at her daughter, at the wine drying on her hands, at Rachel's folder tucked against her chest. She thought of Marcus, of Rachel, of every complaint she'd read from a distance. Every time she'd told herself it wasn't her problem anymore, it was always her problem. She built this company. The rot grew from her roots. 11 minutes. Alina pulled out her phone again. Dialed a number she'd never forgotten. James, this is Alina Vance. I own your company now. Meet me at the stage in 2 minutes. Silence, then, Alina, 2 minutes. She hung up. Alina stood. She took Sophia's hand. I need you to watch something. It might be hard, but I need you to see who I choose to be when it matters. She walked toward the reception hall, wine still damp on her collar, the folder in her pocket, her daughter's hand in hers. The microphone was 30 feet away. The next 12 seconds would change everything. She didn't hesitate. 8:27 p.m., the reveal. The ballroom fell quiet as Alina approached the stage. 300 guests turned to watch a wine-stained server walk toward the microphone. Confusion rippled through the crowd. Whispers spread like brushfire. Victoria Ashford Chen's face shifted from irritation to alarm. What is she doing? Someone stop her. From the kitchen doorway, Dominic emerged. His voice carried across the room. Security. Get that woman off my... Alina reached the microphone. She adjusted it. A brief squeal of feedback cut through the silence. Then nothing, the whole room waiting. Good evening. Her voice was steady, calm, the voice of someone who had been waiting for this moment. My name is not Maria Santos. The murmurs stopped. My name is Alina Vance. 18 years ago, I started a food truck in the Mission District. I turned that truck into a company. I built Aurum Catering from nothing. Dominic's face shifted. Confusion first, then something darker, recognition creeping in. I sold the company 5 years ago. My mother was dying. My daughter needed me more than the business did. Some things matter more than success. Alina paused, let the silence build. 2 days ago, I bought it back. As of 4 p.m. on Thursday, I own everything you see tonight. The staff, the contracts, the reputation. She gestured to the crystal, the linens, the flowers, every fork on every table. Dominic's face collapsed. Denial warred with dawning horror. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. I came here tonight to see what my company had become. I worked as a temp server. I watched. I listened. Alina's voice remained measured, every word deliberate. And 15 minutes ago, I watched a man throw wine in a woman's face, her crime, asking a question about a guest's food allergy. She touched the stain on her uniform, red wine, dried to burgundy now. That woman was me. The room gasped, 300 people turning to stare at Dominic. He stumbled forward. This is insane. She's a temp. Someone call. A pale figure appeared beside him. James, the manager, his voice cracked. Dominic, stop. James, this is obviously some kind of... She called me. It's true. James couldn't meet anyone's eyes. She owns the company. Dominic's certainty shattered. Alina watched it happen, the arrogance draining from his face like water from a cracked glass. She held up Rachel's folder, but the wine was the least of it. The room went still again. I have documentation of 3 years of harassment, wrongful terminations, hostile workplace violations. She opened the folder, showed its thickness to the crowd. Dozens of complaints, witnesses, patterns. Dominic had gone grey. And I have evidence of financial fraud, skimming from vendor contracts, approximately $15,000 over 3 years. She closed the folder. That's not a fireable offense, Chef Crane. That's criminal. Dominic lurched toward her, desperation in his voice. Elena, Mrs. Vance, let's discuss this privately. I can explain. No, one word, absolute. I can explain everything if you just. You threw wine in my face. Elena's voice dropped low, controlled. You called me trash in front of 300 people. She pointed to the edge of the room, to where Sophia stood watching. In front of my daughter. Dominic followed her gesture. Saw the 11-year-old girl, saw the tears on her face, saw what he had done through a child's eyes. We're not doing anything privately. The unexpected ally, a voice cut through the tension, deep, authoritative. She's telling the truth. Gerald Ashford rose from the head table, the patriarch, the man whose money had paid for this wedding. The room held its breath. I've been watching the staff all evening. Gerald walked toward Elena, slowly, deliberately. I saw how this man treats people when he thinks no one important is looking. He stopped beside her, turned to face the crowd. I watched him humiliate a young server over a crooked napkin. I watched him threaten this woman for asking a simple question. Gerald's voice hardened. I should have said something then. I didn't. That's on me. He looked at Victoria, at his future daughter-in-law's frozen expression. But I'm saying it now. What she's describing, I saw all of it. Victoria's face was unreadable. Processing, Gerald spoke gently. I know this isn't what you wanted for your wedding, but some things matter more than a perfect party. At the edge of the room, Sophia watched. A powerful man had just chosen to do what was right. Her eyes were wide. She was learning something that would stay with her forever. If that moment just gave you chills, if you've ever dreamed of someone standing up like that, your comment and your share tell us these stories matter. Drop a single word in the comments for how that felt. We read everyone. Now let's see what happens next. The consequences. Elena turned back to Dominic. Dominic Crane, your employment with Aurum Catering is terminated, effective immediately. Security approached. 2 men in dark suits. You will be escorted from the premises. Any legal matters will be handled through appropriate channels. Dominic didn't resist. The fight had drained out of him. He looked smaller now, diminished. As he passed Elena, he opened his mouth. One last attempt at something, defense, excuse, apology. Elena held up her hand. Don't. He closed his mouth. He walked out. The door closed behind him with a soft click. Elena turned to Victoria. Ms. Ashford Chen, I owe you an apology. This was your night. I've disrupted it. Victoria's voice was tight, controlled. Yes, you have. But I won't apologize for what I exposed, only for the timing. Elena straightened. Your contract with Aurum will be refunded in full, $4.2 million, Monday morning. Victoria studied her, the wine-stained uniform, the calm face, the folder still clutched in her hand. I hired Aurum for its reputation. Victoria's tone softened slightly. I suppose I should have asked what that reputation was actually built on. She glanced at Gerald, back at Elena. Refund half, keep the rest. A pause. Consider it a donation to whoever's going to fix this mess. It wasn't warmth, but it was something. Elena nodded. Then she addressed the remaining staff. Rachel, Marcus, the others who had frozen in terror all night. I know you're scared. Tonight wasn't what any of you expected. Her voice gentled. I'm not firing anyone else. What I am doing is starting over. Monday morning, I'll meet with each of you. Anyone who wants to stay and build something better, you'll have that chance. Rachel was crying. Marcus looked like he might collapse from relief. Redemption later, in the service hallway, James approached. Mrs. Vance, I should have. He couldn't finish, started again. I have documentation too, warnings I filed, problems I reported and never followed up on. Elena waited. I was a coward. Yes, you were. James flinched, but he didn't argue. You knew what was happening. You protected yourself instead of your people. Yes, that's going to be hard to live with. Yes, Elena studied him, saw something genuine in his shame. If you want to stay, you can, but not as a manager. You start over, you earn trust back. She paused. Or you walk away with a reference and we never speak again. James swallowed hard. I'd like to stay, then be better starting now. He nodded, walked away, smaller than before but moving toward something. Elena found Rachel in the corridor. You kept records for 3 years, you waited. I didn't know what else to do. You did exactly enough. Elena pulled her into a hug. I couldn't have done this without you. Rachel broke, sobs shaking her shoulders. Welcome back to your company. It never should have been anything else. Legacy. The estate was emptying, guests departing, the night winding down. Elena found Sophia sitting on the service stairs. Her homework was scattered around her, forgotten. I'm sorry you had to see all of that. Sophia looked up. Her eyes were dry now, clear. I'm not. Elena sat beside her. That was a lot for someone your age. Mom, Sophia's voice was steady. You let him hurt you, you took it, and then you still did the right thing without being mean back. She reached for her mother's hand. That's the bravest thing I've ever seen anyone do. 1 year later, Aurum Catering was different now. Rachel ran operations. The staff trusted her. She had earned it. Marcus was in culinary training. His talent, recognized at last, was flourishing. Elena didn't manage the kitchen anymore. She didn't have to. She had built something better than a company. She had built a culture. Every new employee heard the story, not as gossip, as a promise. Values aren't what you say when things are easy. They're what you do when no one's looking, when everyone's looking, and when everything's at stake. Sophia's SAA school assignment, a person who taught me about courage. Sophia wrote, my mom taught me that real strength isn't hitting back. It's standing still when someone hurts you. It's waiting until you can make things right. It's choosing kindness when you have every reason to be cruel. She also taught me that some things are worth $4 million, and some things are worth more. If this story stays with you, we'd love to know. What's the one word that describes what you're feeling right now? Comment it below. Those words mean more than you know. Like this video if you believe kindness isn't weakness. Subscribe if you want more stories that remind us who we can choose to be. And share it with someone who needs to hear that standing still when you could hit back. That's the bravest thing there is. Thank you for being here. We'll see you in the next one.